Welcome to They Think It's All Sober, Miss Abi Feltham.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us. We're good.
We are good.
We're good. We're very hectic at the minute, but it's like a good hectic, fulfilling hectic, slightly jittery hectic.
A lot of coffee.
I'm on decaf.
I'm not.
You not?
Well, did you get me a decaf?
Not you, no. You look like you needed it.
Yeah, my 5-year-old drop kicked me at like 5:55 this morning.
Okay, what was his reasoning?
Oh no, just morning.
Morning, Daddy.
Too many shoes.
No, he just came in and he's just in that stage where he's quite clumsy and he's like half asleep but decides to get into bed with me and Sarah, and then he just like knees and elbows. They're all knees and elbows at this age, so yeah, you feel it. And I'm
Just woke up and chose violence.
Yeah, so I was up and I was like, cool. Well, that's normally my sign to go to the gym and try and get a bit of morning activity in. And then here we are.
Here we are. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
Obviously, you explained a little bit briefly before, but we kind of try and do a little bit of a different format, I think, to some other podcasts here, and we don't just dive into like the darkest, deepest depths of seshing, which I'm sure we've all been to. We just kind of ask our guests kind of early memories of alcohol in their life and childhood, and just kind of let you lead as much as you're comfortable, or not really. But yeah, it's just a genuine, open, honest, raw as you want to get, chat about our lives, and we can all sit here now smug as sober people. But we always sort of say like we're not ever trying to be like a preachy podcast, and I think there's a lot of literature out there that's very much like go sober or die, or do 12 steps or die, and we're just trying to have lots of different honest conversations. And we found your page and we fucking loved it because I feel like you're one of the most honest and open of them all.
Yeah, thank you.
Very open book.
Yeah, I am an open book, and I like to talk about the lows of living in sobriety as well as the highs. For me, there is a lot of lows.
Yeah.
I'm in such a better situation now than I was 4 years ago when I was drinking and drugging, but it is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of lows and I fucking hate it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
that's an amazing perspective, and obviously we'll dive in more detail later, but that's something that we think is really important as well, because often I think there's this almost holier than thou perspective around sobriety, which I think can put people off going sober because they think they have to suddenly turn into this sort of like saint, which let's face it, none of us are. But also no one really talks about the shit days. And sometimes you do miss certain elements of your life, or you do wake up feeling like a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it's not perfect. Like no one has a perfect sobriety or a perfect recovery.
Yeah.
So I think if we talk about the fact and show that it's not perfect, then when people are kind of going on their own recovery journeys or sobriety journeys, then they can kind of understand that they're not failing if they have a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to kind of understand. But so I guess let's take it back, and we normally start this by me saying, Jamie, can you give us a time machine noise, please?
It's the best time machine noise you'll ever hear.
Okay.
By you?
No, for starters.
Okay.
That's my feedback.
Okay. That's lasted us 18 episodes, Abby, so I'm a little bit upset.
I just
by
said,
this.
okay, I'm sorry.
Do you know where I got the inspiration from, though? The inspiration was from those toys when you were a kid.
Which ones?
By you?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And in my head, that took me back.
No, that does actually take me back, because I am of the age where I had the
Yeah. Oh, that was
toy.
better. Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to snip that back now. And now we're going to dub it every time. So, Jamie, time machine.
Get me on the phone every time you record an episode. Like, we're just going to dial Abby for the time machine sound.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I was a bit brutal in my feedback, but
no, it's good.
I appreciate it.
Look, honest and raw. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
There we go. But so
I'm just going to be sat here gently weeping for the next hour now.
so
Don't mind me. Let's drink.
Fuck's sake. So yeah, we kind of just talk about. I suppose it's good for our listeners and people to kind of get an understanding of how your sort of first memories of alcohol were, whether they were sort of pleasant ones, or whether it was on your radar that alcohol was kind of like a thing to be wary of from an early age. So yeah, if you don't mind kind of sharing with us these sort of earlier memories.
Yeah. So my drinking, well, throughout my entire drinking career, like it's not been unique in any way or special or different. Like when I was a teenager, I did everything. I did the same thing that most British teenagers do who do drink. It was all cider down the park, Smirnoff ices at house parties, that kind of thing. I just knew that as soon as I started drinking when I was about 13, 14, I just loved it. Fucking loved it. It kind of took away all of my bad feelings. I was very angry teenager.
Right.
I had like massive self-esteem issues, identity issues, and like I hated myself, absolutely hated myself. I didn't understand myself. And when I was drinking, like it took all that away, all of it. I had quite like a lot of trauma in my early years.
Right.
So just to get into it, you know, we're like 5 minutes in, but let's talk about...
No, that's kind of the timeline. So if that fits the timeline and you're happy to share, then let's go.
I mean, it's what kind of like, it's not the cause of my drinking, but it is like a massive factor.
Sure.
Really, it is of note. So like when I was 4 years old, my father committed suicide. And of course, that really affected me as a kid. The environment I grew up in was just very unstable. I didn't really have like a loving environment really growing up, because it like tore my family apart, and my other family members like ceased to function. And I was just pissed off. Like by the time I got to a teenager, and I was trying to like figure out my identity, figure out who I am, where I came from, like all this kind of stuff that everyone deals with. I found it just incredibly difficult, because I was like, well, I don't even know who my parent is really. I had my mum, but we were like never close. And then when my dad died, this was like the early 90s. Mental health was incredibly stigmatized. It wasn't like we talk about it now today. Once he died, that was it. Like we never spoke of him again. And all the pictures like came down from the walls, and it was just like complete erasure. And I kind of was like, oh, okay, so that's how you deal with emotions. You just
close it down.
You block them off. You don't deal with it. And then when I found alcohol, I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's for. So, okay, I'm feeling these feelings. I feel this way. That's what you do. You drink it away. And then just as soon as I started drinking, like that was it. Fucking loved it. It made me feel normal. It like stopped all the all the self-hatred really. And I found it really fun. I just thought it was really fun.
Can I ask, because I lost my dad at 9, similar ways, and I think I never really put the 2 and 2 together in terms of like dealing with loss or grief as a child, because you do have that trauma and you kind of get on with life, right? And it's just like, that's how it was. And family members around you, for whatever reason, whether now in hindsight I agree with or not, just kind of they're like, life goes on. And then you kind of get to that teenage drinking. Did you feel like at the time when you started drinking and found drinking and enjoyed drinking, that did you feel like it was suppressing that stuff, or did it just feel like a whole new gateway had opened up and like Abby's life ahead of her had opened?
A gateway, I think so. It was an escape, you know. So I found like a lot of possibilities. When I was drinking, I was like, oh yes, adult now. I'm an adult. I'm destroying my life in adult ways instead of the teenage
But I've got school tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. It was all I wanted to do was drink, really. Like as soon as I started, like I said, my drinking was like really just quite standard for a teenager down the park. And it was like underage drinking in pubs, that kind of thing.
Something I've just thought of is like more of a, I guess, holistic thing. You mentioned British culture, and it actually kind of brought something up in my brain. Why do we think that as Britons, we are kind of conditioned to be like 14, park, cider, get fucked? Because there's no other nation really in the world that embraces that culture like us. Like what is that about our culture where it's just like, get fucked up, it's normal? Because it puts some of us that have tendencies on a very fucked up path very early on.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Why?
You know, you see places in Europe, you know, they'll give their kids like a glass of red wine with dinner, and then they grow up with this attitude to alcohol. It's like, oh, it's something to be enjoyed now and then. But then like in England, they're like, get it down, yeah.
I see a load of Italian kids going mainlining like bottles of red wine in their local parks. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think like, so I know you said you, I guess, going into your sort of early teens, you were quite angry, and alcohol kind of gave you that escape. Was the drink making you feel good? Was it just giving you this escape, or did it exacerbate some of those like angry feelings? And were you, getting drunk at that point, and was that anger coming out, or was it just like taking it away?
It was taking it away. Like it was complete like escape from my own emotions. And it was kind of like just like living in a different world, a world where I felt like just like normal, I've always felt very different to like my friends, and to like to all the other kids at school, that kind of thing. I had a lot of friends, but I didn't feel like I could relate to anyone, and I didn't really feel like anyone could relate to me. Felt very misunderstood. And drinking, just took me into a different world where I didn't have to kind of think about that kind of stuff. And it just made me feel like normal. It made me feel like I was part of something bigger. It was an immense distraction, really, because when I was a teenager, when I was at school, like I didn't want to, like that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to party and drink and have sex and do drugs and just all do that. Like I had no aspirations to like study at school or do anything like that. So drinking kind of like, it was a great distraction from all the other stuff that teenagers are supposed to be doing that I had no wish to participate in.
So do you think at that early stage, I guess like 15 to 18, did that really feel like it set you on a course? Like where did life go sort of into your, I guess, later teens, like 17, 18, into the workplace? Like what was that little bit of that journey then? Because it sounds like, I think some guests you speak to that kind of do like the teenage drinking and then they're like, oh, I'll go do this, and feel like almost for a while it's back to normal. I'm a bit similar to you, where I just felt like it always just kind of kept going on and on. And even though I was doing good things work-wise, it just was always in the background. What was that period there, I guess, coming into like real adulthood, quote unquote?
Yeah, I mean, the way I drank as a teenager really only ended 4 years ago when I stopped drinking altogether. But like I said, I had no aspirations to do anything or to like have a career. Like when people are like, oh, what do you want to do when you're older? I'd be like, I want to get fucked up.
Party, yeah.
Like, I literally, that's what I wanted to do. Like when I was a teen, there was a couple of movies, right, that really kind of set me on a course, right? And I think, when you're a teenager and you're lost and you're trying to find identity, for me, I looked in movies. I looked at like characters and movies that I liked, and I was like, right, I can kind of take on that persona, I can do that. And there was 2 movies that I really latched onto. One of them was Almost Famous, Penny Lane the groupie.
Yeah,
I just want to be a groupie.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do. And then the other one was American Beauty, and there was Mina Savari's character. She has one line where she says, I don't think there's anything worse than being ordinary. And that like spoke to my soul.
Right.
I was like, I want to live an extraordinary life. I want to party. I want to basically be Penny Lane. I want to go out and have adventures and drink and drug and have as much sex as possible. And that's what I want. My friends were like, right, I'm going to go to university. I'm going to become a policeman or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go fuck shit up, which I did. So I focused on just having as much fun as possible. So when I was about 16, I started hanging around with rock bands. I was obsessed with indie music.
Right.
So this was like the early 2000s.
Nice.
So there was lots of like, I don't know, cool indie music.
Yeah.
So I like started hanging around like backstages and stuff. And
So you really were like, that was just, to be fair, you achieved your aspiration.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm quite proud of myself,
Yeah, well
actually. Well, I am a woman of extremes, which is why I'm sat here today.
Yeah.
I'm either like fucking partying until I'm almost dead, or I'm the most sober person in the world.
Yeah.
There's no in between. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go be a groupie, and that's what I did. I pretty much stopped going to school altogether and just went to band shows and went off on tour. And I was like, oh, remember going into my French oral exam when I was GCSE exam. I guess I was 16. I was just obliterated. I was so drunk. I'd come straight back from an after show party that turned into a hotel party.
Wow.
I was like 16, but I thought like this was the tits. Like I thought I was living the life. Which I guess I was, but also it's quite questionable.
Yeah,
especially the adults I was hanging around with.
I'm like sat here thinking like there's two things to this. A, 16-year-old, and then B, 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was great. Looking back, I'm like, what were those adults doing?
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, come on now. So I ended up getting expelled from school because I stopped going. And when I did go, I was like stinking
Trashed.
of vodka. So they were like, hey, you can't come to the school anymore.
Wow.
I was like, what, man? And then I ended up going to a college, like a sixth form college, and doing loads of coke, basically.
Right.
I met a drug dealer who also went to the sixth form college, and thought he was the best thing ever because he just gave me loads of free blow, and I just did that. And then carried on that lifestyle, really.
Wow.
Like I didn't want to grow up or do anything. So that took me into kind of like adulthood. I moved to London when I was 18. I managed to get one A level, which got me into a university.
Nice. What was your A level?
Media studies.
Nice.
The easiest one.
It's fine. Look, it all counts. It all counts.
They all count.
They all count, exactly. So I went to a university, and I only recently rediscovered what course it was that I did, or what I enrolled in. What was it called? Communications and visual culture.
Okay.
Right. Which is basically just TikTok, which is what I do now. So really.
So we kind of worked
No,
out.
look, not many people end up in a career that they studied. So
Exactly.
fair play.
I had a massive detour, but there we go.
Yeah.
Well, if only I did actually study, but I didn't. So I moved, my halls were in Bethnal Green. So I moved to Bethnal Green when I was 18. I went to like the introductory lecture, I guess, the intro day for uni. Went in there, signed up, went back to my halls, received my student loan, and I never set foot in that university again. And I ended up...
That was a very expensive day for you.
Yeah. So for like 2 years, I just took the student loan and just partied.
Wow.
Like I didn't do anything. Like I am in tens of thousands of pounds in debt because 18-year-old me wanted to get messed up.
Signed a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's mad.
There we are.
But how was that introduction to London? I'm assuming because you grew up nearish London, right, in Berkshire.
Yeah.
So were you in and out of town quite a lot?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it wasn't like the bright lights of the city.
Yeah.
Did you just fully immerse yourself and embrace it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just incredible for me. Like I did come in and out of London a lot, but I was always going into like Central.
Yeah.
I'd never been to East London before. So I moved to Bethnal Green and I discovered Shoreditch. And this was like 2005.
Right.
So Shoreditch was a bit of a different place than it is now. And I just went out there and I was like, oh my God, there is like art and music and fashion and everyone's getting wasted and there's loads of drugs. Like this is incredible.
My scene.
Yeah. And I had all this money coming in from my student loan.
Jeez.
And I didn't have any like responsibilities because I wasn't studying. I wasn't making any effort to do anything. I did end up getting a job as a waitress at one point. Because, the whole money, a cash flow.
Cash flow. Yeah.
There's a cash flow problem there. And I did that. And I just, fully immersed myself in, it was what I set out to do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to study. I didn't want to be part of the real world because in the real world was the way I felt about myself.
Yeah.
Which was like the low self-esteem, self-hatred, the not fitting in, like having no sense of self, not feeling connected to anything. I didn't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be part of my own little like fantasy bubble where I could just drink and shag blokes and like run away to rock shows.
And like mid-noughties, emerging Shoreditch with all the music, art, drug culture, you must have felt kind of almost at home.
Yeah, it was awesome. I listened to a lot of questionable EDM.
Okay.
That's Tom's career now. Don't slag him off.
How dare you? I don't do EDM.
I was going to ask a question actually about, we talk a lot about kind of the character or the mask sometimes that alcohol brings. And it sounds like you definitely maybe had two versions of self and one you were trying to get away from. Was it just like an exacerbated version of yourself, or did you almost create, like, come to London and create a new character or a new life? Did it feel like, who was that new character that you created?
Yeah, it was good time party girl. Like, it was like carefree Abby who just wants to have fun. And yeah, that was the persona that I had.
Yeah.
And that I admitted. But, you know, deep down, I was like very, very troubled. Very troubled. Like, just really, really hated myself.
Yeah. And you were still aware of that. So that was always bubbling away. It wasn't like...
Well, I drank so much that it wasn't even bubbling away.
Right, that's
like, this is, and I just kept on like feeding it, covering up.
Were you aware? So sort of during this time, it sounds like you'd almost connected with this kind of like scene, East London, and it kind of sounded like you were having a good time, even though it was kind of a bit chaotic. But did you remember back going, I was enjoying that at the time? There was part of you going, this is great.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I loved it. I loved partying.
Yeah.
Like, now it's my worst nightmare. Like, being at a party, just, you know, with loud noises and lots of people makes me feel very, very nervous. But at the time, that, like, I lived for it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Interesting. So this is probably what, like late teens, early 20s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so East London. And then when, I guess just trying to follow the narrative and the timeline. So yeah, early 20s. And how do things kind of progress for you from there? Is there a point where during that period you noticed it not becoming maybe as fun and, you know, things getting a little bit darker, or was it a good few years that you were kind of immersed in that scene for?
It remained fun. You know, I had my like fair share of issues, like toxic relationships and boyfriends, like where neither of us were very nice to each other. Yeah. But I was still having fun. Like, it was, it wasn't the best time of my life because like as the years went on, I found ways to have even more fun. But I just loved it there.
Interesting.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think there's a lot of us that probably had that really chaotic, mad lifestyle. And for years, it was fun. So we talk about it now when you look back and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done X, Y, Z as much. But there's still like nights out or moments or memories that I'm like, I actually wouldn't change that for the world. And even if I was using alcohol or Coke as a function to get away from how I really felt, I still did have some really good times. And we're really open about that on this podcast because we don't want to be like, never do this because you're a piece of shit. Because actually there is a function. And as human beings, like, we do go on a journey of self-discovery. Some of us, it takes a little bit longer than others. And some of us have the ability to balance from the day we're born, which I'm fucking very jealous of those human beings. But I do think, like, I think you're bang on. Like, you can just have fun sometimes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I ended up moving to Southeast Asia. And those were like the years, like when I was in like my mid 20s,
right.
I spent those years living in Southeast Asia. And that was like probably the funnest time of my life. And I look back on those times and although it was, like you said, chaotic and very unhealthy, doing terrible things. But I look back, like, when I had like loads and loads of fun. Wouldn't do it now. Like, you can pay me to do that now. But I did. I had incredible amounts of fun.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I actually spent a year in Thailand, and that was when my band at the time went on hiatus, and I kind of was a bit like, shit, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. You know, I thought in my head I'm going to be making a rock band, and you know, we did okay, but it was way too niche, the music we were doing. But at the time I was like, you know, I facilitated my drinking and drug taking by being like, I'm in a band, it's normal. Like, that's what we do. That's what everyone does. And then when that came to an end, I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? And my mate had a resort in Koh Phangan. So I went, fuck it, I'm going to go to Thailand. everyone's like, make sure you don't do any drugs in Thailand. You can get like killed. And I was like, no, I wouldn't do that. No, absolutely not. Get to Thailand, start doing more coke than I've ever done in my life. And it was amazing gear as well. I remember vividly. And then like got introduced to like liquid ecstasy in this entire world. And I was like, fuck me, I'm not leaving. So I ended up being in there for a year. And like, I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
But now it gives me the absolute fear. Like you say, I'm like...
That's it.
And I think back, I'm like, why did I do that?
I've known you for 17 years and had no fucking clue you lived in Thailand for a year and took liquid ecstasy. What the fuck? In what timeline? How old were you?
Mate, that was like 23.
Jeez.
Yeah.
2023. Your whole sobriety's a
Yeah,
lie.
like last year. No, that was when I was 23, and it's when Arusha kind of ended.
Right.
And I attempted normal life for a while. I had a really nice normal girlfriend, and we planned to go like traveling, but we ended up breaking up like a month before we went away because I was so off my fucking head. And I said to her, I was like, why don't you just come for a month and just travel as mates? And I think she lasted about 3 weeks and was like, fuck you, you're mental. I'm going home. And I was like, see ya. Next thing I know, I'm in like Vietnam doing pills on the back of a bike somewhere. And I was like, oh, fuck. So yeah, it was then. And then I stayed up there and then came back and made my life plan. But anyway, we
what was your... kind of, because obviously like sounds like you really loved that scene in East London and you really embraced it. What was your switching point of like, I'm going to move to Southeast Asia? Like where had your drinking and drug taking got to here? Did it feel like you just needed something new or?
Well, when I was living in East London, I did what every respectable person in the early 20s living in East London would do, and I became a DJ. And I started DJing for a living. And I was, playing gigs all across London.
Sick.
And I got an agent and I was making quite good money. And I was also having a lot of fun because I got to do a job where I got to do my favourite things, which was dancing and drugging and drinking and having sex.
I'm getting paid for it.
I'm getting paid for it. Yeah. I was like,
fucking hell, life. That's great. That's great, yeah.
But I think it got boring eventually, you know. It did. Like, I don't think I had like a moment where I was like, oh, what am I doing with my life? like, but I feel like I was kind of stagnating a little bit. I still had no kind of like desire to do anything. Right. Anything else. Like I still didn't have a desire to kind of like work on a career or go back to school or do anything like that. But I knew I wanted something else. I wanted something different. So I was like, right, I'll go find myself in Southeast Asia. Nice. And I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand.
On your own?
And on my own.
Did you know anyone there?
And then, no.
Abby, you just went for it. You are.
I just went for it. Wow. Yeah, I was 23. And this was like 2011, 2010, I think. And I was like...
You're working out if you were there at the same time?
Yeah, we could have well been.
Probably...
Could have well been.
I recognise you from that bike.
Full moon pie.
Have we met?
Yeah,
we met.
I mean, I don't remember anything from being there. So yeah, we might have.
You both look petrified.
Yeah,
I was like, right, I'm going to go find myself in Thailand because I'd seen it on the TV.
Nice.
I just figured I'd have like a spiritual experience there. And everything would make sense, and I'd know what I'd needed to do.
Yeah.
I just found out that I was a humongous alcoholic, and then like that I was out of control.
Right.
But yeah, I moved there. Well, I went to Thailand, and it was supposed to be a 6-month backpacking trip, and it ended up being about 10 years. I only returned back to the UK in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just like lived out of a backpack for all that time. Like, wow. I went to Thailand, loved it there. Everyone was drinking, and it was cheap, and you could get away with a lot there.
Yeah.
There was like, it's sad to say, because a lot of like foreigners like me do go over there, and like you, go over there and just dick around because it's like, oh, we're not in our home country, so rules don't.
And it costs about £1 a day to live.
Yeah, so exactly. And you're like. I don't have to like act in a certain way. I don't have to be respectable here. Mm-hmm. So everyone just lets loose and just like, it's just carnage. And I loved that. And I ended up in Laos and got offered a job there.
Mm-hmm.
And I accepted the job like straight away. They were like, "Oh, do you want to come and be a party rep and work in the bars and stuff?" I was like, "Yeah, big time." And I kind of threw myself into that.
How long were you there for?
Like 4 years.
Was that was it Vang Vieng?
Yeah, Vang Vieng.
Yeah, 'cause I went there and I remember someone saying to me, if you go there, don't stay more than 2 or 3 days because you'll get stuck in a time warp. And I was like, yeah, don't worry, I'm planning on staying there 2 days. I was there 2 weeks. And I had to leave at like 4 a.m. one night and get the fuck out of there because I was like, I'm going to die if I stay any longer.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Talk me through
Well, it's like the notorious tubing place, isn't it?
Yeah. So like so Vang Vieng, it's a very different place now. But back in like 2010, that time, it was like a major party destination on like the backpacker trail that people do through Southeast Asia. They call it the Banana Pancake Trail.
Okay.
It goes through like Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos, and it's basically just a party route. And it's all very cheap. You can just party your way around it. Not everyone does. Some people are normal and they just actually like,
oh, this is nice sunset.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's go to this temple and like enjoy things and like, let's go on a nice trek. Not everyone fucking goes insane.
Yeah.
So I guess if you don't mind, like, where was your relationship? Because you mentioned the word alcoholic earlier. Would you say that's a word you'd use to describe yourself at that time? Were you aware of it, and how did drink and drugs play into that period of your life? Because I'm assuming, yet again, with the DJing, it's almost like a job that embodies your habits and addictions, and it sounds like being a party rep was the same. So how did that period play out for you?
I mean, in terms of like identifying as an alcoholic, I knew I had a drinking problem back then, but I didn't like go like throw my hands up and be like, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I didn't want to think about it, to be honest. I didn't want to pay too much attention to it. Out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, I knew that the way that I was drinking and the way that I was living my life was like an extreme, and it was like different to other people, and especially my friends back at home who were like settling down and getting married and having children. And not smoking crystal meth like in club toilets.
Oh, nice. So you went for it.
Oh my God, yeah, big time. Yeah. There was a lot of meth around in Laos. There's a lot like, I don't know, you can't really get your hands on all the classics over there.
Yeah,
so
I even remember.
I think I definitely smoked meth there, but like for me it was by accident. Like,
well, because I remember being in Australia trying to get Coke and doing a line of this Coke, and I was like, that's a bit weird. It's like, oh mate, it's jungle mix. And I was like, what the fuck's jungle mix? And they were like, can't have anything but definitely some myth. And I was like,
cool,
good. Didn't sleep for like 2 days.
Yeah, it happened to me in Van Bien. That's why I had to get out, because I think I had a load of meth, and I was like I very much knew it was into my Coke then, but it put me into a weird place, and I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So that must have been why.
Yeah, that's it. So to answer your question about Vang Vieng,
there you
go. When you asked me what it is,
meth.
So it's basically meth.
Jeez.
Yeah, but it is like it's a party town basically.
Right.
Well, it's not supposed to be. It was like a fisherman's town in the 1970s, and then like as the decades went by, like more backpackers from like Europe and North America.
More white people ruined it.
Exactly.
Like we always do.
Can I ask you a question about this place? Because I can't ever remember if it was the drugs or if it was real. That's a really good precursor, isn't it?
Like a fucked up travel show. I love it.
This is great. Was there a thing called Rocket Day?
Yeah.
That was real?
Yeah, that's real. And everyone dresses up in the different genders.
And they fire rockets without knowing where they end up, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Mate,
this is a real thing. There's basically like, there's this frog, right? there's this frog spirit, right, that lives in the sky, right? And you've got, what they do, this is like... Really, this is specific to this area in Laos, right?
Okay. So the frog's from there?
Yeah, okay. Right. So the frog lives in the sky, and then so they want like to piss the frog off, because if you piss the frog off, then the frog makes it rain. Right.
And they need that for the crops and shit, right?
And you need the rain for for the crops and for like the paddy fields.
Yeah.
So they're like, right, let's get let's build a fucking bunch of like rockets, like firework rockets, but like huge ones.
Like projectiles.
Yeah, let's light them, fire them in the sky, and piss off this frog.
Fuck you, Kermit, you piece of shit.
Exactly. and then everyone like dresses up in like crazy outfits, and you dress up as like the opposite gender to further piss off the frog. So he just doesn't like it.
Because he's what, a turf?
Yeah.
Is he J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, he's an intolerant frog. So if you fire him with rockets and you piss him off with gender identities, then he'll make it rain.
Okay.
And it's the weirdest day.
I'm so glad you can clarify that for me.
I love the fact that you've lived 10 years thinking that this like Rocket Frog Day was just you smoking meth. It's literally you go to bed every night.
No, because I've asked other people about it, and they're like, "What the fuck are you on about?" And I'm sure it happened. I remember thinking at the time, like, these guys are literally firing what can only be described as like Russian projectile missiles off into the distance. And I was like, "Where do they end up?" And so I remember speaking to some guy being like, "I don't know," and I'm like, "Just imagine this village being like 20 miles away, and these projectiles are coming in." And
they do.
Like, so I'm glad. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I'll show you later after we finished here. I've got loads of videos on my phone. I'll show them to you.
Okay, great.
So you did 4 years of
4 years there.
Rocket Frog Festival, yeah.
Amassed.
Yeah,
Amassed,
basically.
Oh,
so it's basically, so the town like ended up being like a big tourist town.
Right. Must go there.
Yeah.
Fuck that frog. This is going to be the best podcast ever. Like, in my head, it's like this anime frog. And now I've got visions of you just laying in bed like, fuck you. But he's not even real. Like some kind of sleep paralysis frog. It's like... Oh, God. Guys, honestly, don't take drugs.
It is the strangest thing to walk into. Like, if you're just, like, traveling around Southeast Asia and you're doing all the drugs and drinking just to turn up in this, like, little fisherman's village and everyone's firing projectile missiles into the sky.
Okay.
I need to compose myself.
Mate, it's ridiculous.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's answered so many questions. Well,
poor you. I honestly can imagine you laying in bed like, babe, I promise it's real. And she's like, Sarah's like, what are you on about? You're like, I promise there's a frog.
Rocket Day.
I feel like we're healing a wound here for you.
No, it really is.
Yeah,
it's
therapy.
Good. It's healing. So, okay, so timeline, obviously East London, Thailand, Southeast Asia, Laos, Frog Day, Rocket Day, lots of meth. Talk us through, so after that, and you were there, and then you came back in 2020?
Yeah.
Okay, and
you were sober in 2020?
I got sober when I got home.
Right, okay. Right. So should we dive into maybe like...
Yeah.
I don't want to say like the worst bit, because that's like a bit intense, but like, did it come to a head, or did the pandemic bring you home?
Yeah, was it? Yeah.
Sorry, did I just? Sorry, I feel like I was a bad co-host.
No, not at all.
I'm sorry. Sorry,
that's great.
It was a mixture of all that. Like I had several rock bottoms, and things got really, really bad. Like really, really bad. And then the pandemic forced me home. So it was a little bit of both. So I ended up staying abroad, like after worshipping the frog god. I stayed in Laos for 4 years because it was another place where I could get away with drinking and drugging, and I didn't have to participate in the real world. It was very insular living there. So I got paid in booze and drugs also. So I was
that's helpful.
Yeah, I was party rep. I was living with like a Lao family, and we had our like accommodation, visas, food, drink, drugs, like everything was taken care of. Wow. So it's like, okay, I could just do this forever, and I literally don't have to think about another thing ever again.
That's almost like when they talk about like modern slavery in a way, where they make people, you get paid, your currency is the thing that you need to live, and you can't actually be set free from it because you're not given money.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So everything was just free, but you didn't really have the minerals to get out.
Yeah. I didn't want to get out. I loved it.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like this, yeah. I mean, like this was very much a choice of mine.
Got you.
Like that, like I did want to stay in that environment. But eventually I was like, okay, I should probably go see more of the world, because I've been in this town for a while.
Yeah.
I should probably go do something else. So I moved to Cambodia and then did the same thing there. And then eventually went to Australia. And then I was basically just doing like the same thing, putting myself in environments where I could get away with drinking and drugging. I moved into working in hospitality, working in bars and restaurants, and just kind of like threw myself into that scene because it was another lifestyle that I could live where people aren't going to question my drinking, or the people I was with also were heavy drinkers and also wanted to do loads of drugs. So in Australia for a little bit, and my mental health just like declined massively. Like just pretty much just as my addiction issues ramped up and I was drinking more and more and more, just the more depressed I was getting, the more suicidal I was getting. That got really, really bad in Australia. But
did that just dial up massive? Because it sounds like there was a point where everything was really fun and then suddenly not.
Yeah.
Did it feel like a stark change, or was it quite gradual?
It was quite gradual. Like I was like, oh, this is really fun. I'm living the dream. I'm just like traveling around and all that. And then I kind of, as I was getting into my 30s, I was like, I turned 30 in Australia.
Right.
And I was like, oh, maybe I should have done something by now.
Right.
Like I was starting to feel quite unfulfilled. I was like, oh, okay, this actually isn't that fun, but I can't go without drinking now. So I'll just keep on doing that. And then I was so depressed and quite suicidal as well. So I was like, I don't want to go a day without drinking, because then I'll have to face up to like how awful I feel.
Yeah. It must have been quite tough. And especially, I guess, circumstantially as well, going from Southeast Asia to Australia, in terms of like funding an addiction, Australia is very expensive, right?
Yeah.
Comparatively to being in like Laos, where everything's like pennies, and then you go there and you're like, fuck me, how much is this for a drink or cigarettes or anything else? So I remember doing exactly the same thing. I've got family there, and I was like, I'm going to survive here for more than like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
$300 a gram, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially because I was like, when I got to Australia, I was like drinking the same way that I was drinking in Southeast Asia. Like I'd gotten accustomed to this lifestyle of drinking all day, and I had to keep that up because by that point, I was like not only mentally dependent on alcohol, I was like physically, dependent on it. If I like went a day without drinking, I was just so sick. But I couldn't stop drinking. Like I couldn't.
Would you say you were like fully physically dependent at that point as well? Like you had withdrawals and
yeah, big time. I mean, like I was like I'd have withdrawal when I was living in Southeast Asia. I'd have massive withdrawals. Like I started every day with a beer, and like as soon as I woke up, I'd be shaking. But yeah, that carried on into Australia, and yeah, it really wasn't fun anymore. Like I was not enjoying my life at all, and I couldn't stop drinking. There was a time where I realised it was really bad when I was staying with some friends of mine that I'd had met in Phang Vieng. They lived in Sydney. I was staying with them, and they went away for 3 weeks, and I was house sitting for them. And then as soon as they left on the first day, I was like, oh, goody, I get to help myself to their alcohol. So I went in their liquor cabinet and swiftly downed 2 bottles of whiskey.
Wow.
And then the next day woke up and I was like, oh shit, I need to replace this. So I went down to the shop, replaced the bottles, brought them back, and then kind of put them in the cabinet. And then like about 5 minutes later, I was like, oh, I should probably just have a little bit, just a tiny little bit. And then I had a little sip. And then before I knew it, I drank another 2 bottles.
Jeez.
And then the same thing happened again the next day, and then the next day. And it happened for 3 weeks.
Wow.
I would just go to the shop, replace the bottles, and then drink them again.
It's a lot of booze, isn't it?
It's a lot of booze. By the time I got home, I was so sick. I was like broken.
Wow.
And I had like quite a high tolerance for alcohol by that point, because that's pretty much I was pretty much drinking like a couple of like 700 milliliter bottles of spirits a day.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And I had been for like a few years by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just I just noticed that when I put the bottles away in the cupboard, they'd be out of sight, but they weren't out of mind. Like I'd be sitting on the couch and I'd be like, I know they're there. Like I need to drink them. I have to drink them.
Almost like eating away at you, going, fuck.
Yeah. And then I would. And then, this cycle just happened for 3 weeks. And then at the end of it, I was like, I actually have no control. Like, I am powerless to this. Like, I actually can't stop drinking. But then I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm just an alcoholic. And then I kind of just accepted that. And I was like, okay, I guess that's just what I do. I guess that's just my life. Like,
so how did that, so then you go to Australia. So like, but obviously like you say, like it is harder to drink like that there, but were you just finding ways to keep that going?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going out. I was just drinking at home.
Right.
Like all the time. And the people I was living with drank a lot. They were heavy drinkers too.
Right.
So I barely went out. I was just drinking at home.
So talk us through, like, when did you leave Australia? Were you still drinking and then you came home? Or
No.
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 There was a frog.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. So I was in Australia and I was like, I was so depressed. I'm like suicidal. I was like, I'm really depressed. I know what's going to make it better. I'm going to move back to Bang Vieng.
Oh, no, you didn't.
So I went back to Bang Vieng.
Fuck.
Which was like, it was like the answer to my problem at the time. I was like, I'm depressed. I hate my life. I'm going to go somewhere that I have like loads of fun.
Familiarity and comfort in a way.
Somewhere that I know that I was happy and I could just I just wanted to go back to that place where I didn't have to think about everything, and I wanted to hide away again. I wanted to hide in my little bubble of partying. Drugs that I got there. And it was actually really fun. It was great. I was like, I'm back. My depression's gone. And then I end up meeting a man. Right?
It's always men.
It's always men.
Yeah, sorry guys.
It's always
sorry.
I ended up meeting a man, and then we fell in love, and it was amazing. And I was like, oh, good God, I'm a genius. My depression's cured.
Figured it all out, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is great. I'll go out with this bloke. I'm here. It's fantastic. And then we ended up going back to America together. And I moved in with him on Long Island, New York.
Wow.
Which was just an absolute disaster, a complete disaster, because nothing had changed.
Right.
Like, I thought I was fixing all my problems. I thought I was like, okay, I'll have this relationship. That will make me happy so I won't have to drink anymore. Or I'll move to America, and once I'm there, I won't have to drink anymore because I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And turns out nothing changed because I was still me. Yeah. I was like trying to run away, but wherever you go, there you are.
Still there, right?
Exactly. So my drinking did not get better.
Right.
So I moved into his house, and I was just behaving the same way.
Was he a heavy drinker, or?
He was when we were in Southeast Asia together, when we were living together then. We drank a lot and partied a lot. But now I was kind of like in his domain. He had a catering business.
Right.
And he had his real life there. He had his family there, his friends there. Like, he was going back into like his normal life, and I kind of brought my drinking into it. So he'd go to work, and then by the time he got home, I would have drunk like his bottle of tequila, and I'd just be pissed. And then that just kept on happening. Like, every time he left the house, like, I couldn't control myself. Like, if there was booze in the house, I would drink it. So he'd come home, and then like, I don't know, I guess like he thought he'd met this like cool, carefree, Bridget Jones-esque hippie chick in Southeast Asia, and brought her home, and just realised that she's a fucking like unhinged alcoholic. And like, he'd come home from work and he'd just have this British chick shouting at him. Like, I'd just be blackout drunk, like just out of control.
Yeah.
So that destroyed the relationship pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He was very much functioning,
and
he wasn't drinking, and he's living his daily life. And I was in a hole of addiction.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop drinking, and I was just like a nightmare to live with.
And this was 2020, 2019?
Must have been 2019.
Right, okay.
I think so.
So we're getting closer to the point
to you
I guess, realizing or needing to? You said there was a combination. So I guess let's kind of, I guess from there, you're coming back to England. What was that time period like? And what happened to kind of, I guess, the moment where you're like, need to sort this out?
Okay. So let's do bullet points.
Yeah.
Because I realised that I've been rabbiting on.
No, it's great.
No, it's been fantastic.
Great. No, it's wonderful.
Okay. So he kicked me out.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Bullet point 1, kicked out.
Kicked me out. He had enough, and at that point I had a visa for Canada.
Right.
I had like the right to live and work in Canada, and so in the middle of the night he was like, "You've got to leave," and he booked me a flight to Canada, to Ottawa, where we had a mutual friend, and he drove me to Newark Airport in the middle of the night, and he was like, "You've got to go, you've got to leave, like just get out."
Dropped you off.
Dropped me off, put me on a plane. And then I ended up in Canada. And in Canada, I decided that the best way to deal with my problems was to start smoking crack, as you do.
Sure.
I was like, I'm dealing with a breakup. Like, I need to get over this guy. Just a little bit of crack. That'll help.
Yeah, it's always just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. It probably wasn't like the best of reactions. You know, a lot of like women, when they have like breakups, they might change their hair, or, you know, join a gym.
Yeah.
Get a new wardrobe.
Crack.
I was like, I'm gonna start smoking crack.
Yeah.
But
And was that a new drug for you at the time?
it was. Yeah. I basically had I don't know, I'd like lost the desire to live, basically. And I was like, just anything that's gonna destroy me, I'm gonna do.
I was gonna say, it sounds very self-destructive tendencies.
But the guy who introduced me to crack was the first person that I met who was in recovery.
Right.
So when I met him, he was sober. He was actually my boss. I worked in a fast food restaurant.
Right.
And when I met him, he explained to me that he was a recovering alcoholic. And I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
I didn't know that I didn't know people were sober, really. And I didn't know that you could be an alcoholic and not drink.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could have a drinking problem but recover from it.
Yeah.
So that kind of like opened my eyes, and it planted a seed.
Yeah. Like a tiny speck of light at the end of a tunnel.
Yeah. It kind of like, it made me realize that there was a life after like the pain of active addiction. I planted a little seed, but then he gave me some crack. So
Yeah, I was confused with the lineage here, because you're like, sober guy introduced me to crack, and I was like, no, surely I've just misheard that.
Well,
but I didn't.
Yeah, so he was my boss. He was sober when I met him, and then his relationship broke down. His girlfriend dumped him.
So he relapsed.
Yes, he like very actively relapsed. He kind of said to me, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to relapse and go off the fucking rails. Do you want to come with me?"
Are you in?
Yeah, basically.
Right.
He was like, "Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, I was in such a dark place, and like was super suicidal. Like hated my life. I was like, yes, this sounds perfect. Like anything that's going to destroy me further, I'd love that.
Yeah.
So we ended up going on like this 4-month crack binge, which was a nightmare. Like it was awful.
4 months.
It was horrible. Like it was one of the dark, like I've had a lot of dark times in my life, and this was the darkest. And it was just like, I hated it. I absolutely hated it.
Is in the places you ended up, physically, mentally, like what was all of it just?
It was
nasty?
So like it was basically 4 months of sitting in a dark room as strangers came in and out, just smoking crack and doing nothing else. It was like living like Groundhog Day. And he was financing all this, and yeah, you know, and the place that takes you mentally is just
dark,
really dark. And it's just like no hope, and you just don't see how you're gonna get out of it. So I pulled another geographical. I was like, I'm gonna go somewhere else, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, classic. It's not the crack, it's the location.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I should probably stop smoking crack. I'm gonna go somewhere else. And I ended up on Vancouver Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had a restaurant there, and he was like, hey, why don't you go live in my trailer and work in my restaurant? And I was like, cool, I'll do that. And, you know, I stopped smoking crack, which was one of my objectives. So
that was good.
That was good.
Yeah.
But like, I was still incredibly dependent on alcohol. couldn't stop drinking, ended up getting fired from this restaurant job for drinking a bottle of vodka on shift. Like the owner of the restaurant, who wasn't my friend, the other owner, came in, and I was like slumped over the bar, and it was like 7 p.m. So the restaurant was really busy. And he was like, "What are you doing?" I remember him taking me into the kitchen, and he was like telling me off like a little school child. And then I had to go in for a meeting with him the next day, and he sat me down and he was like, "Look, I think you've got a drinking problem." And I was like, "No shit, Sherlock. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Like, you should have seen me 4 months ago.
Yeah. If you think this is bad.
Yeah. Jeez.
So,
God.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I lost my job there. And then, I was living in this trailer. I had no mates there, I had no support network, and my mental health was just shot by then. Just like, it was awful. So I ended up trying to kill myself.
Right.
Which didn't work, as I'm here, sat with you now.
Thankfully.
Yeah. And that gave me like a nice little stay in the psych ward, a little
Right.
grippy sock vacation, which is very confusing for me because like I tried to kill myself. The guy I was seeing came in and found me and called an ambulance. And then and the police came down, and then they ended up just like strapping me to a gurney and driving me to like the psych ward. Because this was Vancouver Island, it's quite sparse up there. So the nearest psych ward was a 4-hour drive away.
Bloody hell.
So I was like, they strapped me to a gurney, put me in the back of an ambulance, and then like gave me some drugs. And then I passed out and I woke up in a psych ward. And I was like, this is very confusing. Why am I in Canada? Why am I in a Canadian psych ward? I was like massively in crisis. Like I was out of control.
Yeah.
I was like almost losing touch with reality.
Yeah.
Like my mental health was just poor. My physical health was poor.
Yeah.
It was the worst. And then when I got released from the psych ward, some people who go through experiences like that might be their wake-up call. It was not my wake-up call. Like as soon as I got home, I went straight to the liquor store and I was like, oh, I need a drink. Like I didn't have a...
Was there a correlation, do you think, or not a correlation, I guess? Because I guess it was like, like you say, some people for that be a wake-up call, but I guess for you, because how long were you in there for, if you don't mind me asking?
3 days.
3 days, right. Like, okay, so I was going to say if it was like 30, you probably, but I guess maybe that it hadn't even been long enough for alcohol to even be out your system, was it?
No. I just wanted to get straight back on it.
Yeah.
Go back, like retreat back into my little fantasy world where things can't hurt me and I don't have to be part of the world.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And everyone else in the town that I was living with started losing their jobs, which was quite convenient for me. So I was like, I'd lost my job because of drinking. And I kind of like used that as an excuse to go home, basically. Everyone was leaving the town. It was like a tourist town, so there's a lot of backpackers there. So everyone was losing their jobs and going home. And I'd lost mine because of the drinking. So I also went home. I went back to the UK and moved back into my mum's house, like the house I grew up in.
Right.
And it was almost like returning to the scene of the crime, like where it all began.
Right.
Which was like incredibly self-reflective, really.
Yeah.
Like when I got home, I carried on drinking. Like I didn't get sober immediately. I carried on drinking. I had like a 2-week bender just drinking at my mum's house. And then at the end of this 2-week bender, I remember just feeling so fucked. Like all this like stuff had happened.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I had started doing something that I had done as a teenager. I was drinking in my bedroom and I started like hiding all the empty bottles down the side of my bed, which is what I did as a teen to like hide my drinking from my mum. And I started doing that again as like a 31-year-old woman. And then I was clearing up the bottles one day once I'd sobered up after this bender. and I was like putting them in this like plastic bag. I remember it like clinking, and I dropped it on the floor and sat on the end of my bed, and I had this like moment of just pure clarity. I think like everything that had happened over like the last 10 years of me like self-medicating basically with drugs and alcohol and kind of physically running away from country to country and mentally running away through drugs and alcohol. Like I had this moment of clarity where I realized just how bad things had gotten for me. And then I just received a message. Like I just heard a little voice that told me like, you don't have to do this anymore. Like you don't have to. And then it just made sense that I had lost control. I'd lost complete control of everything, not just my drinking, but just lost control of my life. Yeah. And it was like solving like an algebra equation that I'd been trying to figure out for years. Yeah. Like I could finally figure it out. I was like, oh my God, it's drink. It's drink. Obviously I've had my fair share with fair share of troubles with drugs, but alcohol is like the one thing that I'm powerless against. Everything else I like could put it down if I wanted to. Alcohol can't. Right. Like I realized that alcohol was the one thing that was destroying me basically, and I was just completely powerless against it, and it made perfect sense in that moment that I had to stop drinking. And you did? And I did. And how was that process? Because it's always that thing where you sort of, sometimes I feel, because it's always so interesting hearing about the stories, and I always feel like we get to like 15 minutes and we're like rushing to be like, no, you're sober. But I think it's really important to tell that story of your 10 years, because it sounds like it's just incredible for you to, like, incredible that you're sat here with us, because I think a lot of people maybe wouldn't be. So I'm very grateful that you're here with us now. Did you have to go through any treatment or recovery process, or did you decide to just quit? Like, what was your day 1 to day 30 like, and how did that process start? So I'm an idiot and just stopped drinking. Right. Like I had no idea about alcohol and what it does to your body and safe ways to do it. I didn't know that like you shouldn't just stop drinking, especially if you're a heavy drinker like I was. I know now that it's very dangerous and you can die and you can have seizures and everything. But I was just so committed to this decision that I was going to stop drinking. And I just went cold turkey, which was pretty horrific. You must have felt fucking horrendous, right? It was awful. Yeah. It was awful. I was having like hot flushes, sweats. I was hallucinating. I was just lying in my mum's bed, and like the walls just wouldn't stop moving. And just, it was having like an extreme fever. And it was pretty gruesome, but I stuck it out. Right. Okay. My mum was looking after me. She didn't know I was going through with like alcohol withdrawal. I was like, I think I picked something up on the plane. And I stayed in bed for at least 2 weeks, watching Parks and Recreation. Nice. Yeah. It's a bit triggering for me now watching that show. I can't really watch it. It just reminds me of alcohol withdrawals. And then, I did what I do with everything. I went to the extreme. I was like, right, I'm sober now. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to be the most sober person there ever is. And because this was locked down, I had like so much time and space to do that. And I dedicated my life to recovery. Amazing. So I understood what recovery was. Yeah. I started like reading up about it. I started going on online communities. I unfollowed like all of the party accounts and all of like the sesh memes and memes and like drunk backpackers and stuff like that. Unfollowed all of them, and I just typed in the word recovery and then followed loads of recovery accounts, and then I started reading things online, and it's just really, really committed my life getting better, because I accepted by that point that I needed to get better.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, actually, because we spoke about it on a previous episode, that when you choose to make this choice, actually that some of those, it seems like a little thing, but actually just following certain accounts, even if it's like a subconscious or like a sort of like you're just scrolling and reading little things, they are almost little affirmations that whether you take them in consciously or not, they do start to build. And I've done the same, where I've just muted some friends, not because I dislike them, but because sometimes their content's a little bit too much for me, and followed some stuff that I feel is really positive, and that's had an amazing effect on me. And it's small, but it's a small change I think people can make to just kind of change those pathways that they're used to.
Definitely, absolutely. It was definitely something that helped me, having the exposure to it, but then also being exposed to people who I identified with, people who were like me, people who were alcoholics, but had a sense of humor about it. People who were dark people and had dark thoughts, but wanted to get better. And having identification with other people who thought like me.
Yeah, feeling again part of like a sense of belonging, isn't it, to a community that aligns with what you want to do and be. I suppose.
It helped me make sense of myself, like just feeling like less alone. Made me kind of process my own emotions and what I was going through as well.
That's great. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask, because I'm quite conscious of time as well, which we always do this.
You asked that question, I'm just going to go text Kevin.
Yes, amazing. So I think with regards to your recovery, obviously it's been a successful recovery. You're here and you are now, how many, is it 3 years?
3.5.
3.5 years? 4
years next April.
Amazing. So can you talk us through some of the things that you find really useful in keeping you sober and mentally engaged and positive? Any sort of daily routines that you follow?
Well, I've now discovered that I love powerlifting.
Okay.
So I do a lot of powerlifting.
That's very cool.
And it's really like a big part of my recovery.
Amazing.
It's quite meditative for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's something that really, like, it keeps me grounded, and it, like, just that mind-body connection really, really helps me. And then I also do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of Kundalini yoga.
Okay.
So, like, I can turn anything into a drug, like, literally. Anything. When I first got sober, like for my first 6 months of sobriety, I was doing Kundalini yoga for about 3 hours a day.
Right.
Just like meditating and chanting.
Nice.
Which, is also another form of escapism, really.
Of course.
Yeah. I don't know. So some people may say that, that's not sobriety if you're still escaping. But,
no, not at all. But I think we will find something. We had Matt Willis on yesterday, and it was fascinating because he was very much like, I'm still addicted to a routine, and that is, 10 minutes of meditation, a cold bath, and that's still habitual tendencies. But I think there's a lot of us that I still have a little routine that I think
it's positive routines, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's not crack.
Exactly.
It's not crack. So your kind of go-tos then are like meditation, yoga, powerlifting.
Yes, big time.
Anything else that you find particularly useful?
Yeah, well, I ended up joining a 12-step program.
Okay.
When I was 18 months sober.
Nice.
Okay.
So I had a bit of a different story to a lot of people who I know who also do work a program. My first 18 months of sobriety was great, but then I had a mental breakdown. Basically, when the pink cloud of being newly sober wore off, I kind of I didn't know anything about emotional sobriety at this point, and I kind of was left with the reasons why I drank, and then not having any coping mechanisms to deal with them. So I needed some support. So I ended up joining a 12-step program, and now I have a sponsor and work a program. So that is also really important. I don't my first year, I used to go to 3 meetings a week, and now I probably go to 3 meetings a month.
I think it's what works for you though, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That's what I found with sobriety and recovery, is that it's just a series of doing things that work until they don't work anymore,
Yeah.
and then you have to find new ways.
Yeah.
Which sounds in an odd way similar to the journey you went on for 10 years, except instead of running away from things, you're now finding things that help rather than make things worse.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I feel it's bizarre you say that, actually, because I never would say that I felt like I was alcohol dependent or needed AA, but actually now I'm nearly 18 months in, I'm more and more, the more guests we speak to about it, I'm more and more intrigued about going to meetings.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's just me being like nosy on it, but the more people talk about the community of it, I am like, there's something in it that I'm intrigued about.
I know, I'm completely with you.
Yeah. I mean, if you need to work on emotional sobriety, and if you want to connect to like spiritual principles and do that sort of work in sobriety, then like AA is where to do that.
Yeah.
Like it for me, like I knew that that's really where I was lacking, and that's why I was not coping. That's why I was like living as a dry drunk, basically.
That's a really eloquent way of putting it, actually. It's amazing.
I mean, this is why we started the podcast, is to get like a whole spectrum of guests in, because everyone's recovery story is different. And for myself and Jamie, I don't think we were stuck in a cycle of addiction that necessarily required us to do rehab or 12-step. I didn't know until I stopped whether I would or not, but I was lucky enough to able to stop without doing so. So were you. And you know, we've had some guests on that were like rehab. I mean, Rob Harvey being an example of someone that went to rehab at 22 and has never drunk since he was 22. And same with David Gibbs, who's our psychotherapist we have on the pod. He stopped at 22 via rehab. We've got some people that do 12 steps, some people that don't. The whole thing with this pod is like half our listeners still drink and are like sober curious. Half of them don't drink. For the people that are thinking about it, it just gives them so much food for thought about what recovery is, and to maybe make them think about, okay, maybe I should give it 30 days and see how I feel. Maybe I should give it 100 days. Maybe actually I need to go to AA because I might need that emotional support, or maybe I need fucking rehab and I need to just get myself down there. So I think it's just like giving people that kind of knowledge into, you know, certainly your journey is like an inspirational one. You know, you've traveled a lot, you know, and whether that was escapism or not, you've seen a lot of the world and you've done a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of people that have done a similar path, and maybe some people that feel quite lost who go, you know, I know a lot of people and friends that have done the whole, you know, been away for years and years, and I can see that they're really running away from shit that they didn't deal with and have come back and done so, very much like yourself. But it's inspirational that you're here. And like Jamie said, you know, I'm glad that, you know, the suicide didn't work and you're here with us, and like, you know, you've had your thing, thank fuck for that.
I would be worried if you were like, I'm glad that suicide did work.
But
Fuck
like,
that frog.
Yeah.
He really took you over.
I'm also glad that we've clarified the rocket day and the frog thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was thinking though? I was thinking, what if both of you were just fucked up on meth and the frog doesn't? So if you asked anyone else, and you two just bonded in the spiritual realm over this frog, the frog doesn't actually exist.
I think it's just another person.
I don't even know if I exist at this point.
Who are we? Where are we?
No, it's but no, it's amazing, and it's like, it's a great journey. And
I think we're trying to be really open and honest about sobriety as well. And there's some good things and some bad things. And I know that you mentioned previously that some of it's not all been good. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced that weren't necessarily like, oh, I want to drink, but some of the day-to-day challenges that being sober can bring.
It's really like living with the reasons why you drank, and then not being able to calm yourself or to self-soothe with alcohol. So a lot of the reasons why I drank was self-hatred, like low self-esteem, low sense of self, and I used alcohol to help myself feel better, to feel good. And then now I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I can't drink alcohol anymore because if I do, I'll start smoking meth with the sky frog. That's where that road is going to lead me. And so now I don't drink alcohol. I have to deal with like the low self-esteem and the low sense of self. Like, I have to deal with that daily. And I can't drink alcohol to it. So it's about dealing with those little like nagging things that if I'll be like, oh, if I could just have a drink, I would feel like immediately better. In the long term, I wouldn't. So yeah, those are like the lows.
It's basically dealing with your shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dealing with your shit.
There we go.
That's cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
The
great.
big three?
I think it's important to touch. Yeah, the big three. So we finish every episode with 3 questions. So I will take the first 2 and Jamie will take the third.
Yeah.
So question 1, for any listeners who are thinking about embarking on a journey of sobriety or just changing their relationship in general with alcohol, what's the best piece of advice you could give?
I would say get to know yourself when you're getting sober. Because for whatever reason you're putting alcohol down, you know, there must be like some sort of disconnect there. And that's definitely the self-discovery is what's helped me, really, kind of being more at peace with myself. I am not at peace with myself at all. I still have so many issues.
Yeah.
And I struggle like a lot, but I'm a lot more at peace with myself. And that comes through like self-discovery. So I'd say concentrate on getting to know who you are and what you like and what your values are and what like your hobbies are. Yeah, that's probably the most important thing to me.
That's really, really useful.
That is a great advice.
That's really, really good. Question 2, what's the single best thing you found about sobriety?
Not facing death daily.
Pretty good.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Not waking up and being like, am I going to die today?
Yeah.
So like stability is like what sobriety has given to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing.
Stability and just like a life that doesn't fucking terrify me.
Yeah.
Really.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. Question 3, the big one.
The big one. We would love Abi to write drug Abi a letter.
Ooh.
So if sober Abi could write drunk Abi a letter and give her some advice, what would it be? So please start with Dear Abi.
Okay. Dear Abi, what the fuck? No, I'd say like, Dear Abi, love yourself, you know, have the courage to look inward, get to know yourself, and have the courage to seek help and to say like, I'm not okay, and to face up to your problems and face up to everything you're dealing with. Stop running away because you are worth like a life beyond like this, like the pain and monotony of active addiction. Like you're worth more.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
I
Thank
can
you for
safely
joining
say
us.
that was one of the funniest but most informative pods we've done, and I just want to say the world is an infinitely better place for you being in it.
Oh,
So I'm
thank
very
you.
glad
Yeah.
that you're sat here.
I think
Thank
it's
you
going to
so
inspire a lot of people.
And
as
thank
well.
you so much for joining us. You've been amazing.
Oh, it's a
you.
pleasure. Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me.